such a pretty thing.
We are human, we are animals, we crave the ability to be we. I know it's called me undies. We undies might have sounded differently.
Is it a disco now?
Yeah, it's an after party, so it's now we go with the flash.
My goal in life is to be a laptop sticker.
Me too.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.
It's a great honor, Mr. Jaffe. It's always nice to be with you.
I'm so happy to be with you. I'm honored.
Thanks for doing this, too. It's a real service to the community.
Thank you for doing this, Joseph, for doing CoronaTV in general. And it's your gift to the universe, and it's appreciated.
Very human, and I like that.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're insane!
I am insane, and it is June 1st, and that is insane as well. It is insane that we are in the sixth month of the year, and we want this year done already. We want 2020 done, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. Hello, everybody. Happy June 1st. It's difficult to be happy at the moment. I mean, these are turbulent, trying times, and we are dealing with two viruses at the moment, and it's really hard to find the right balance. And I'm really happy because I've got a change in plan today. I'm pivoting. The guest that was meant to be on is not going to be on, because the guest that was meant to be on is Andrew Keene, and he's such a contrarian that of course he was going to run into schedule issues. And I was able to go to my A-list, and there's no one better than Ted Rubin. And certainly times are such that the perfect person that I'd want to talk to is Ted. And we'll talk about what we're going to talk about soon enough. I did try and attempt to create ground rules, like terms and conditions that he had to sign. He had to sign his life away. To be able to make sure that we address certain things, because he's known as the libtard. It's Ted Libtard Rubin. What is a libtard? We're going to have to ask him. I don't know what a libtard is. Maybe he knows. Maybe he'll explain what it is as well. So we're going to do it in our own way. It's going to be serious. It's going to be intense. Hell, man, it's CoronaCocktails. So what could go wrong when two liberal people join forces? I mean. It's going to be, I may lose my clean billing, but Ted, you're not allowed to swear, but it's going to be a shit show. Just saying. Anyway, what can I tell you today, guys? It is not ironically, but it is Say Something Nice Day. And we need it. We need to be able to say something nice. We need to find the niceness. We need to find, not the olives, but the lemonade from the lemons. It's also National Olive Day. And I had to think long and hard about whether I wanted to have a martini today or go with single malt scotch. I had to go with single malt scotch because I've seen Ted Rubin is the only man who's been probably drinking more than me during this quarantine period. And he's always seated there with a beautiful single malt scotch. So that's what we're going to drink together. And Bob Farnham is here. I said, find the niceness. Yes, we're going to find it. We may have to look really, really long and hard, but we will find the niceness as best as we can. I find the niceness in looking at all of my guests, and I keep this up because it just makes me feel good to see how many smiles we've been able to create, or I've been able to be a part of. So it says next week. I've got to correct that. This week's interview, of course, Andrew Keene is now Ted Rubin. So thank you, Ted, for stepping in. And then tomorrow, Ron Tite, Chris West, Mark Bowden, and David Olmano will round off the week. But we're going to focus on Ted. He's a CMO. He's a speaker. He's a provocateur. He's an author. He's a wallflower. He's very introverted. He doesn't like to tell you what's on his mind. For example, I have no idea what his political leanings are. I mean, I think he's an independent, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. As always, if you like the show, if you like me, or maybe you're just faking it. I don't care. Like the show right now, comment below so I can welcome you on the show. But comment in general, your engagement, your ability to share the stream right now with people, and to subscribe to the show on coronatv.show is what will allow the rising tide to float my boat. So help me float my boat. I know that sounds a bit obscene, but you know what I mean. Happy birthday to all my Facebook friends out there. A whole bunch of them as well. Wow. I think 18 of them celebrating today. Max Lindemann in Canada, I think he's in Canada. Neve Harrisman, happy birthday to you, Neve. And to all my LinkedIn friends, contacts, Romans and countrymen, and women, I just wanted to say happy birthday to you. So that's my preamble. I have, in honor of my guest today, and maybe to set the scene, a seated soliloquy that I'm calling Judgment. And I think the Facebook like is going to play a key role in terms of setting context for not only this, but also the conversation with Ted, right? That's about to happen. So let's face it, guys. We like to judge. We love to judge, especially when it comes to judging others. Right now, people are protesting injustice, and most are doing it peacefully. Some are not. In general, people are mad as hell, and clearly they're not going to take it anymore. So what do? We sit back in our armchairs, and like good armchair quarterbacks, we posit, we critique, we evaluate, we commentate, we judge. Too much, too little, just right. Or like an emperor watching two gladiators fighting to the death, we provide the final verdict. Thumbs up, the loser should be spared. Thumbs down, the defeated should be condemned to death. If you think about it, isn't that really just the Facebook like? Aren't we just continuously passing judgment? Great post, awful post, you're awesome, you suck. If you think about it, I'm kind of doing it right now, aren't I? I'm passing judgment on people who pass judgment. And when you watch this back, perhaps you'll return the favor, stick it to me by passing judgment on me if you didn't like what I had to say. And so the circle of strife continues. Well, perhaps it's time to refrain or pull back a little. Perhaps it's time to balance out the judgment with a bit more acceptance, even acknowledgement. Instead of criticizing someone who put a temporary border around their profile picture with the words "Justice for Floyd," and criticizing them because they didn't make it permanent, or before slating someone for clearing their conscience by donating $1 measly to the George Floyd GoFundMe page, as opposed to $100, which clearly they can afford, right? Why not applaud them for something? Anything counts. Anything matters. Everything matters. It's time to stop throwing literal stones in the street or social media stones online. It's time to start helping. It's time to start healing. That is exactly what we need to do right now. And that is the only verdict that I think will help us together heal and get to a better place. Well, I wonder what judgment lies in store for me. So maybe it's time to bring on the judge, the jury, the executioner, the provocateur, the author, the speaker, and someone who is kind enough to fill in, Mr. Ted Rubin. Welcome to the show, Ted.
Joe, thank you so much. I have to tell you that you did. I swore to myself I wasn't going to pander to you like all your other guests. Tell you how wonderful you are and how great this show is and how important it is. And I wasn't going to, because I really have never watched your show. But
backhanded zinger.
But listening to what you just shared now, there's so much going through my head because you gave me so much to think about with the talk you just had. And it's something I've thought about a lot before. being judgmental, which I separate a little bit from judgment, is something that I've been trying to take out of my life more, except it's all of a sudden become so much more serious, because the being judgmental that always bothered me was looking at a guy and thinking he looks funny in the pants he's wearing, or criticizing in my mind the way someone's carrying themselves. And all of that is so foolish and unimportant, number one, always, but especially now. But I would like to say that, we are drinking single malt, but being that it is at National Olive Day, maybe we could just offer everybody an olive branch right now.
Oh, nicely done. Well, wait a second. We should be drinking, shouldn't we?
Yes, we should. So I've got my glass.
Let's do that.
I've been waiting
too.
Because I was afraid if I started during your whole soliloquy, I might be like 3 sheets to the wind by the time we got started.
Well, wait, are you saying it was too long?
You know what? It's only too long for the guy sitting, waiting to come be brought on. So, and the guy who's listening to it thinking, oh my God, there's a really good point. Let's cover that. Oh, there's a really good. Oh, and then you just can't remember those points.
As they say in the old country, l'chaim.
L'chaim.
Liquid gold. Ironically, by the way, and we'll get back to that. It's good, right? This 1995 Glen Rothers is amazing too. Should we take a moment just to? So here's the irony. The irony is throughout this COVID-19 COVID apocalypse, I've seen you posting on a daily basis, and you're always, it looks like, enjoying the beautiful sun in Florida, and I can see water, and I can see a pier, and I can see a boat. And so that's why I decided to be out today on the pier.
I like it.
The Adirondack chairs. And then, of course, you're not there, but you were meant to be, but you were, in fact, when we started talking, you were on your boat.
We tried it, but the connection just wasn't strong enough. So here I am in a little bit more of an official surrounding, which I thought it would be more fun to just be casual and doing what I do when I have my cocktail every night. But, as I said, when this all started, all the gurus were out there telling everybody, do webinars, we can teach people shit online, sell them a subscription, you can build a whole new business. And I decided that I would build a how to become an alcoholic in 12 easy steps. And I've done my best to hold up on my promise. It was a free course, and anybody is allowed to take it just by logging on and checking out my Instagram or my Facebook story.
And how many steps are in the program to unlearn that? Isn't it 12 steps as well?
I believe it. No, I have to. Oh, you're right. I did make a mistake. It was 6 easy steps that you can become an alcoholic, and half the time and effort it took to not become one. Now, I did get a little grief because of that, because people said I was making fun of alcoholism, but I was actually just trying to embrace a little bit of normalcy, a little bit of ritual in a time when a lot of us were experiencing and still are a difficult and trying time. So my intentions were good, other than the snide comment about the gurus and the subscription businesses.
Well, I just flew over the top because I'm no longer a guru. I'm now a host. Now maybe you will grace us by going back to the boat for the Zoom after show, where you will not be downing your third cocktail because you'll probably be downing your fourth. But please join us, everyone. Go get your olives, go get your scotch, and come join us afterwards in the Zoom after show. I have a feeling that the Zoom after show.
And bring your olive branch.
Yeah, well, and maybe the Zoom after show will, it's tended to get quite political in the past, so maybe because this is not going to be political, right?
No, not at all.
Not at all, exactly. Now let's go back to the soliloquy for a second, because there were a bunch of, well, first of all, I'd love to know what resonated for you, but when I was writing that, I wanted to also focus on, because I want to find my voice, and I want to be relevant, and I want to bring something different to the table, and I want to find my own balance between too much and too little. And I think the point, that I wanted to make, amongst other things, is that whatever you do right now is better than doing nothing. That's the first point. Can we do more? Of course we can do more. I mean, I remember the movie Schindler's List. It was one of the most profound moments when Schindler takes his ring off and And he realizes that he could have saved just one more person. And so that's why I wanted to address it. And, you know, I've seen people criticize others for changing their Facebook profile. And I was like, you know what, maybe you're right. But maybe that's just the best they could do at the time. I don't know. That's what I was thinking.
Like I said, and I mean this sincerely, there was a lot in there you said that I would love to comment on, but I didn't take any written notes. And being that I'm drinking scotch at 5 o'clock and I'm 62 years old and we have so much goddamn incoming, it's hard to remember everything that you want to push out. What really struck a chord with me was, again, being less judgmental is something that I was one of my 2020 goals to address and to think about. And it's a constant thing, because I think a lot of us, you know, every time someone walks by, sometimes someone speaks on stage, every time we see something, you know, even if we don't comment, and I think most of us, you know, reserve our comments for the most part, unless it's relevant, you know, at least in this audience, I would assume. But I just said to myself, you know what, as long as people are happy, why should I be critical of the fact that they shouldn't be wearing that bathing suit at the beach? Or, you know, again, as long as it's not something negative, like, yes, I do get judgmental when I see a parent smacking their kid or verbally abusing them, especially when they're too young to even appreciate the fact that it's anything but they're getting yelled at. But it was something I wanted to address. And then, of course, we have this time where it's so important to come together going forward. And that was even before. That was just during COVID, where I felt like, oh my God, this is something that we all need to address together, no matter where you're from. It's a pity that we have these different views, and then if you're Republican, you don't believe in it, and if you're Democrat, you believe in it, or you're Republican, you don't wear masks, you're a Democrat, you do, and that's just really sad. But let's move on to what's happened now with finally the upheaval that's been boiling over for years. And what's really gotten me judgmental, and I am damn judgmental right now, is the people that just think we can paper over this, that it's just another circumstance, that arrest a cop and move on, and why is anybody protesting anymore? And I got to tell you, it took me years to really be willing to dig in and do the research and educate myself enough to really understand the privilege that we experience. And I don't mean the privilege that you and I have because of the business world we travel in, or because where we went to school, or because we grew up in a certain neighborhood. I mean the privilege of just the color of our skin. I mean, I have dozens of incredibly successful African American and Hispanic friends who worry, like the look on their face that changes when a police officer comes in the room, or just some kind of an event happens in a restaurant or bar. And these are people that live with some of the same privilege we do, as far as education, as far as the home they grew up in, as far as the position they hold. And I try to open my mind to it. And, you know, it's funny, you mentioned earlier, and I don't want to miss it because I know we're going to run out of time, but you said, like, why libtard? Well, you know, libtard is a negative term that people use for someone of a left-wing persuasion. And the way this started was, you know, I started messing around with my Facebook name, and it happened the way a lot of things that I do happen, serendipitously. Something happens, I react to it, I say, this is fun, or this is funny, or people react to it. Vicky Fitch, who you might, you know, or be friendly with, or might not, at one point was messaging me about something, and there was a glitch in the Android software where every time you tag someone on Facebook, their last name got doubled. So it would have been Joe Jaffe, and it was Ted Rubin. And she kept trying to correct it, and she kept apologizing to me. And I said, I love it. And she goes, no, you don't. And I said, I love it so much, I'm going to change my name to Ted Rubin. And I had never even attempted to change my name on Facebook. And I went into Facebook and I changed my name to Ted Rubin. And it created this huge uproar. I mean, I must have gotten 5,000 outreaches. What's going on? And John, of course, my business partner, of course, changed his name to John Andrews just because, you know, we're kind of attached at the hip and we do that kind of shit. And people, like, especially in the mom blogger community, where John and I were very connected from Collective Bias, our past company, you know, like, what's going on? Is there a secret society? Should we change our name? And we're like, no, we're just having some fun, but nobody believed us. So I saw the power of changing your name on Facebook and the way people really take notice. And then what happened was the election came about. And I started expressing my political views pretty strongly for the first time in my life, because I was just so opposed to Trump becoming president. I jumped in a very big way, and all of a sudden I started getting called names, and something that really never happened to me online, other than the occasional spat with somebody, and constantly it was libtard that was being used as the insult. And I'm sitting with John in the car one day. He's like, dude, you should just change your name to libtard. Because everyone's calling it that anyway. And of course, I'm not going to change my whole name. So I said, I'm going to make it my middle name. And I go in and I change it to Ted Libtard Rubin. And I took ownership of it. I have not been insulted with that insult since, because it doesn't make any sense. I've embraced it. So, and then of course, at some point I thought about changing it, but it's the traction it's gotten, and with everything that's going on, again, I really started embracing the ownership of that, and just basically saying I have nothing to hide. This is what I am. I did get a little pushback from people that don't like the term or thought I was making fun of it, and I said no, I'm actually embracing it. So that's where it came from. Another thing that was related to that whole thing is, a lot of people know I use the term "be good to people." I've kind of made it famous. It's not mine. It belongs to a woman named Chris Wittenberg. It's an amazing company. They do great work. But about 11 years ago, I started using the stickers and wearing the T-shirts, and I wore them on stages all over the world. I gave Brian Fanzo his first "Be Good to People" T-shirt when I brought him on my stage at Social Media Marketing World when he got denied speaking there, and I split my time with him because I felt that he was denied unjustly. And now I'm sitting at my dock with signs that say, please keep your distance, COVID-19, because I found that people would just walk up to me and touch me and look at my drink and not understand that I wanted to have some social distance. And obviously I'm very political, and I say what I think, and I can't say that I'm always nice. And I had to take a long time to explain that for me, and this is how I own this term, be good to people, which I take very seriously, and it's changed my travel life. I never get on a plane without a Be Good to People T-shirt or pin, because people look at you differently and they understand how you're thinking. But be good to people isn't just about being nice or being kind. It's about standing up for what you believe. It's about standing up for others. It's about standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves. It's about educating yourself about the injustices that might be going on around you. And I've taken this really seriously, and it's really heartfelt. And sure, sometimes I might get annoyed, but for the most part, I try to be as professional as I can. I try to be polite, again, for the most part. And it's hard to find instances where I'm not, other than a post I put out. But when I curse, as you mentioned, it's with a hashtag that's being commonly used, like "stay the fuck home." Yes, I do hashtag GFY every once in a while when I've just had enough. I don't write it out, but I'll just say I'm done. And I thank people for their input as much as I can. But yes, I speak my mind. I mean, also, if you go to my blog, which I think you said you were going to mention, or I think maybe you did already, tedrubin.com, which is a great way to reach me. Tedrubin.com actually has a name, and it always has since it was launched in 2009. It's called Straight Talk. And I speak from my heart.
Wait, are you the John McCain of libtards? Because didn't he have the Straight Talk Express? So yeah, tedrubin.com. But wait, I got a new T-shirt for you, my friend. When you're sitting out there, this is it. It's "Don't feed the libtard." Don't prod, don't touch. Don't make him angry. You wouldn't like him when he's angry.
I did order a couple of T-shirts, but it turned out I forgot the name of the company. I wish I could share it here because it's a phony business. Apparently, they advertise all over Facebook with these gray T-shirts with writing, and nobody ever receives them, or at least I didn't. And literally, for the first time in my life, when I complained to American Express, they didn't even do an investigation. They just credited me. But I ordered these T-shirts that said, "If you can read this, you're too close." And again, for COVID-19. And what inspired me to find those T-shirts is I saw this really cool T-shirt on this really rugged, tough-looking military type guy that said, "If you can read this, you're in my kill zone." And the only reason I didn't get that, it wasn't because it was so strongly worded, is because I didn't think I could pull it off. I thought people would laugh, when they saw me wearing that T-shirt, because, I'm just not that, threatening. I also wore my United States of America T-shirt here today intentionally, because what I found, which I think is very strange, is that I get people asking me why I'm wearing that T-shirt, that I have no right to wear this T-shirt because I'm a liberal. and liberals don't love America, and I love America with all my heart. So I sometimes I wear it just because it amazes me that I get that reaction. And by the way, the way it actually started when I was wearing "Be Good to People" T-shirts, and I had people that when I was traveling see my T-shirt and call me a liberal, call me a libtard, or leer at me. And when I'd say, I'm sorry, did I do something? And they're like, well, why are you wearing that damn T-shirt? I'm like, it says, they go like, what does it mean? I go, it means be good to people. I don't think Let's because what bothered me is that by wearing a shirt that said "Be Good to People," it was being assumed that I was strongly left wing. And by the way, I am. I want to be good to people. I want to help people. I want to provide services. I want to help the poor. I think we should be paying more taxes. Why? Because I think there are people that are much more in need than us.
First of all, I've got a new one for you. If you can read this, you're in my cove zone, not the kill zone, but the cove zone, right? So I just want to say, like, you're completely hijacked my show, which of course for people that do watch the show, which is not you, I love nothing more than when people do that. But so, Jan gave me a seated ovation for my seated soliloquy, although he apparently told me that I misspelled the word judgment. I have to give you a seated ovation for.
Really? He said that publicly.
Yeah, but he's the copywriter. You'll see him in the Zoom after show. But I just wanted to say that I think I wanted to give you a seated ovation for what you were saying as well, because I think it really spoke to, it spoke to a truth. And here's, look, this is what Jan said, right? He said, why doesn't this outrage, or will it now result in non-voters voting? And Seth said, kindness equals weakness. But before we comment on what these guys are saying, if the assumption is someone that says be good to people, be kind to people, if they're a liberal, the opposite is equally true, which is, why do we assume someone who's on the right would not be kind or good to people? And this is my problem right now, which is, Ted, and I know you would agree with this, which is absolutely every damn thing about every damn thing has been politicized. And it's black or it's white, quite literally, or it's left or it's right. And it's ridiculous because, as your T-shirt says, these are the United States of America. Yeah, and we're not acting like that.
United.
It makes me so mad.
No, and I agree with you. And by the way, again, I think we're all responsible for our own mindsets. So, I'm very fortunate. I have some very good friends who I value as much as anybody in my life. They're part of my total inner circle, who are Republican and conservative. So I know they're good people, and I know they have goodness in their heart, and I never tell them that they don't, because anywhere they come from doesn't come from that, and they look at me the same way. And I think some of what we have to think about is, I think we all have friends on the other side of the aisle, people who we love and respect, and I'm not talking about, and please take this in the right perspective, because I don't mean it negatively. I know we've all come to maybe respect some people less or things like that, but I'm talking about those people that are so close to you that's not going to happen, and that they're important. And because we're so close, we all listen to each other. We respect our boundaries. But I think that we have to start thinking about people on the other side a lot more like we think about our friends who we give a pass to immediately, and give that same pass to the people who you're having a conversation with, and it's hopefully staying friendly, or at least, by the way, it doesn't have to be friendly, but doesn't get mean. That doesn't get accusatory. And that's where a lot of this comes from. And then I think people, and look, I'm guilty of this myself, and I try really hard. I tell them, I always, like, before I respond to something, I research. I'm terrified of writing something that someone could call me out on and say, you're wrong. That's not what that means. Just recently I had something with somebody online who started telling me about Antifa, and they had no idea what it was. They told me Black Lives Matter started it. Do you know what Antifa started? It was an anti-Mussolini organization. in advance of World War
Yeah.
II, and it's been around since then. Now, again, I'm not defending or anything, and
Hence
I'm
the
not
word
saying they're good or
fascist, right? Hence the word fascist.
yes. But the point is, if you're going to speak about something, do your best to research and understand what it's about and what it is. That doesn't mean you'll agree or disagree. That doesn't mean that you'll come around to someone's mode of thinking, but then you won't at least be making statements that are absolutely irrelevant and wrong and incorrect when you can simply Google and find the difference. And please don't tell me that, oh, there's so much misinformation on Google. Learn to discern. Your audience here, the people who are listening, are very intelligent people.
So
we are all smart enough to do a little bit of research and know we're reading a legitimate or an illegitimate source, or where they border or where they come along that continuum.
So I want to just build on what you were saying, which is I learned this weekend watching TV that there is a difference, and this has really resonated with me. There is a difference. He's taken off the cap. You know, if he's taken off the cap, I better pour myself another scotch. See, this is the beauty, by the way, of CoronaCocktails, is that we can.
Oh, wait a second. Can we have another one now?
Yeah, of course. Hell yeah.
Awesome.
As my wife has said, when I start slurring, it's time to go to the Zoom after show. So that hasn't happened yet. That's a soundbite for the highlight reel. Let me tell you, Mark 5:31. Just note to self. So here's what I actually learned, that there is a difference between the term non-racist and anti-racist. And
yes, I was reading about that today.
And this has been very profound for me over the last few days. So first of all, I think about our president, right? Our president said, "I'm the least racist person you will ever meet." Now, well, hold a second. Let's assume that is true. He is the least racist person that we will ever meet. That's a non-racist. That's someone who says, "I don't see color." That's somebody that goes, you know, "I don't have a racist bone in my body." But that's not an anti-racist. And what we need from our president is to be an anti-racist. We need action. But I just want to say one thing. The definition, when you start to do a little bit of research, is research. It's exactly what you said. That is what it is that is part of being an anti-racist, is do the research, do the due diligence, and find out the facts for yourself before passing judgment. So I think that is you kept on saying, "I did the research, do the research." That is the first part. And now I'll say something else about judgment, a second point. You know, this week I looked at my guests. Guess what? They're all white men. They're all white men. So that clearly that wasn't done overtly or explicitly. And in fact, one of my guests, I won't embarrass him, he actually kindly reached out and said, would you want to replace me with a woman or with an African? Like he felt bad. I said, I appreciate the sentiment, but no, you don't. But I will tell you what I've done in addition to that is I have explicitly reached out to multiple African Americans, because I want them to come on the show. I want to have a conversation with them. And you see, this is the point, right? I know who I am. I'm secure in who I am. You know, I have that confidence, but it's not enough. I have to take action. I have to be able to look back and say, you know what? 5 white guys, 5 guys, 5 guys and burgers and fries, 5 white guys, burgers and fries. You know, I'm sure they're all great guys and everything, but I can do more. I can do better. I need to do better. And I've reached out to Van Jones and Bakari Sellers, and I've reached out to all these people that I watch. And you know what? It's fine if they don't respond or do respond. And maybe someone watching right now knows them. Of course, I will welcome them on the show.
But it doesn't have to be somebody famous like that. I've got some guys I can introduce you to.
Well, actually, I got a new segment on the show, which I'm piloting with you, which is, can you recommend someone that you know based on knowing me and knowing on what the show is about, even though this is your first time watching it or being on it, recommend them and introduce me. And by the way, I won't vet them. They're on the show. You know why they're on the show, Ted? Because I trust you.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to readdress something that you just mentioned, and that I said. So we talked about research and you reiterated, but research is just the first step. You beyond research, and again, I'm learning about this. I'm trying to improve myself. And it's a perfect word, learn, is we need to learn also. It's not just about research. It's about being willing to learn. I read a lot, and I read a lot of books. I sure most of them are more towards the side of what I'm thinking about, but then I look into the footnotes, I look into things that they reference, and I try to find books that are about the other side. I mean, I have some people that are very rude to me online, and I have friends that say to me, "Why do you keep them as friends?" I say, "Because I learn from them. I want to understand their mindset. I want to see what they're posting." Because if I'm blocked or they're blocked, or even if I'm not connected to them as a friend, it's less likely, of course, that I'll see their content. And the same thing goes for young people. So recently, a friend of mine sent me. I talk a lot about my daughter, and that's why I was wearing the hat. My daughter's at Harvard Law School, and just to segue for a second, I've had a couple of people reach out to me because I've talked about how my daughter's demonstrating, and I'm a little worried about her. And I keep trying to say, honey, I'm so proud of you and support what you do, but can you demonstrate during the day and not go out at night? From the dad perspective. But people said to me, oh my God, how can you, first of all, I love this word. How can you allow? Does anybody out there actually allow their 24-year-old daughter to do anything? I mean, seriously? But they even said, how do you encourage your daughter who's at Harvard Law, who has such an amazing future ahead of her, go out in the street and demonstrate? I'm like, oh my God, I encourage her. I'm so proud of her. But the point I'm making is, I try to friend some of her friends, which doesn't always go over so well. But, she went to University of Pennsylvania. She's at Harvard. She has some friends that really think, that publish some really good information, that share a lot of good links to places where you can learn about both sides. And I want to be connected to them, so I have more accessibility to the content they're publishing because I'm learning from them. I used to say to parents all the time when I was at events, they'd complain about their kids always being on their devices. And mostly these were marketers, same kind of people you speak to a lot or spoke to a lot when we were at events. And they'd all complain. I'm like, instead of complaining and then getting on stage talking about how you don't understand young people, watch them, observe them. See what their habits are. See what they do. You can learn so much from your kids and from other people's kids. Well, wow, how much more so now? I love hearing how they're thinking, what they're doing. A buddy of mine, who's the ex-CMO of Winn-Dixie and Price Chopper, is in his 70s, and he's heading up to Cape Cod right now, and he went through Connecticut, and he got sidetracked, and he had to go through some protesters. And, he lived through the 60s, and he marched. And he was like, he goes, first of all, oh my God, I'm so proud of these people. And then his second thought was, but we knew we had to get out of there because we remembered when we marched peacefully and how quickly it could turn from a peaceful march to an unpeaceful march. And from that, I want to segue into another comment just before we jump off, is that I hear all these people talking about riots and looting is so contrary. They're ruining what they created. They're not ruining anything, first of all. We still have the perspective to understand what just by doing something that's bad doesn't ruin correcting something that's wrong. But understand, this comes from despair. This comes from the inability to make change. I see friends of mine, guys I love and value, writing, if you want to make change, go out and vote and find good candidates. It's just not that easy. We don't live their life. We don't live in their despair. We don't live in their inability to affect their lives in any way. Again, recently I saw someone who I love and respect, and she posted something online about how if you can't find opportunity in this United States of America, then you're just lazy. And, I responded, and I'm like, wait a second. There's a certain group of people, I agree with you, for the most part, are friends. And then it continued saying, no, anybody, I don't care where you're from, where you live in the United States of America, God bless America, and the opportunity that exists here is something that everyone has access to, and that is such total and complete bullshit. And the fact that I could not get through to this person, that's not legitimate. And I understand that you don't get that, but go out and look a little bit and understand that there are people in this country, all over this country, that do not have those opportunities. And I don't have the answers. I am desperate for us to talk about how we find them. And to try to make some progress, and then not to sweep this under the rug like we've swept under the rug every school shooting, the opioid crisis, every other time something like this has happened. This is the first time where it was kind of three things at once that happened, and it all blew up on top of the COVID crisis. And I'm hoping that I don't want this to end. People say, oh my God, 2020. I don't want 2020 to end. I want it to continue. I want people to really jump in and start caring about what's happening and foster change and have conversations about how it can be better. And let's figure it out. Again, I'm not smart enough to figure out, but I know there are people there. And let's hope that we can find an administration, whether the current one or a new one, that's willing to talk about how we figure this out and not just call it those people. And we've got to shove it aside and move on to the next, because they'll find their opportunity when they vote.
Hold on.
Okay, I'm done.
Hold on. First standing ovation. By the way, if you saw how ugly my pants were right now, they're disgusting. I don't even know what the hell of it. Yeah, these pants. I should rather not be wearing pants. That's how ugly these pants are. Wow, Ted, that was, that was incredible. And I have to tell you, I am so fortunate to be able to know people like you and have people like you on the show. And I was thinking to myself, what percentage, while you were talking, I went and did a little peek, and I saw Jeff Caden, who plays keyboards at School of Rock with me. I saw Mark Schaefer, who was on the show. I did a little bit of a cheat. And I thought to myself, I wonder what percentage of my guests I would, off the bat, welcome back on the show like tomorrow. And I'm privileged enough to say most of them, but certainly you, Ted, because I am like really honored to know you. And it's so funny with all this, we could have gone in so many directions, and you've been, dare I say the phrase, fair and balanced, my friend. That is the definition of fair and balanced. It was beautiful. Just, Seth said, I was lucky to be woken up back in college when my undergrad, I mean, how brilliant is this? They hosted the White Privilege Conference. Coming from a small town of 700 people was life altering, but only because I was in a place where I was receptive to it. What a concept, what a concept to actually say, I don't know what it means to be born with this color of my skin, but guess what? Imagine being born with a black skin and having to walk down and the talk. You know what? You just said something. I mean, you nailed it when you said you don't want 2020 to end, because you are the first person that I've heard, bar none, that has said that. And I understand exactly where you're coming from and exactly what you mean. And you know what? Things are gonna change. And after this, I hope we take on gun control, and we need to heal, and we need to be united again. But that does not mean we're gonna pander. This means we have to fix the shit that is broken and fix it for once and for all, and fix it for good. Amen.
Yes, and amen. And
I'm amending myself.
Is remember, just like in our businesses, you never fix everything for good. You've got to fix it, and then you've got to evolve it as we move on. So let's do that together.
So in the time we have left, and I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours, but I said I'm privileged enough to know, when I first met you, and what I knew of you, yes, cheers. What I knew of you, you were brash, you were perceived almost arrogant in a sense. You were on stage, you said what was on your mind, and you just let it all hang out. And then I met you, and do you remember where we hung out in Vegas? Quite possibly the highlight of your life. Be honest. Where was it?
You took me. So you said you're going to take us to some show. I think it was you, myself, and Greg Verdino. Oh, there it is. And I was like, oh my God. Well, no, but here's the best part.
That's Mark Schaefer inspired.
You were so excited. And you told me how much I'm going to love this show. And, of course, I thought, that you were connected. I show up and you tell me the ticket's $150. And I'm like, we're paying for this freaking thing?
You want America's Got Talent.
And then, oh my God, dude.
Terry Fader.
I got to tell you, here's the positives.
You think you would come on the show? Nah.
Maybe, but here's the positive side. I got to know Greg. I got to know you a lot better. You and I had initially met in Chicago at the CRMC show, where we both spoke, before we went to Vegas for Brand Manage Camp, I think it was.
That's right.
and then we went out to dinner after that. And that I remember thinking at the show, what the fuck am I doing here? Sorry, I know, but you did that once. And then by the end of the night, I remember being so happy that I went. And I mean that because we had a great time. We all got to know each other, and it was a great few days in Vegas.
I learned something about you, which is what a committed family man you are, what an amazing father you are. And there are two hashtags that if you follow Ted, and you should, you're gonna see these two hashtags a lot. And I would love for you to talk about them and what they mean to you and why they're part of almost everything you say. And the first is this idea of no let up.
Well,
what does that mean?
No let up is kind of, I think, the way most of us live our life. But the way this whole thing started was a friend of mine named Tony Luisi, who is now battling for his life. He needs a kidney. So I will post about that later. And if anybody knows anybody, God willing, you can help. But Tony started a charity called No Let Up about helping kids in need. And he came to me one day. We had worked together at 800 Flowers. And he came to me years later and he said, I've started this new thing. You got to check it out. And he brought me a warm-up suit and a sweatshirt and a hat. And I said, oh, my God, like, you're so right. He goes, this is so you. He goes, feel free to adopt it. And I go, listen, I'm going to turn it into something social media wise, which Tony wasn't into at all. I said, I'm going to hashtag it. I'm going to use it. He goes, it's yours. He goes, just don't make t-shirts because that's part of what I'm doing with my thing. And I adopted it. I've written about this. There's a post on tedrubin.com called So What is No Let Up? And what no let up is that there's no let up in life. And no let up is not just about working hard or never giving up. It's about always being there for your family. It's about how there's always something in your life. Your life might be good, but someone else's isn't. Someone you need to help, or someone you love, or someone in your family. No let up is about no let up finding time for your kids. No let up finding time for you. Going to the beach at the end of the day for an hour is no let up. And people will say, every once in a while I'll hashtag it a little let up. Just because people don't understand the whole grasp of the concept. So no let up is just it's what we're all living without always knowing it, because we live in a world that's 24/7, but it's also about being there for your family, being there for your friends, and being there for yourself.
And what about the R on R, right? Return on relationship, because this is and by the way, isn't it funny how we're both marketers, we're both public speakers, and yet we're not flooding the airwaves today with marketing babble and public speaking stuff. It's just about just connecting and having a real conversation and trying to interact with people that are watching, but relationship is such an important part. It's our relationship right now, right? But it's part of also your platform, and it's where we are connected. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's funny. When we started this, you asked me, is there anything I want to promote? And I told you I didn't have anything to promote. Because that isn't why I do these kind of things, and especially a conversation with you. But return on relationship, there's a funny story behind the hashtag. So so return on relationship has always been a part of my life. I always thought of myself as a networker. Everywhere I went, every school I went to, every organization I joined, every job I ended up having after college, I always took away very strong relationships with it. And I measure sometimes people, like I know how I know them because I know them from that organization, and these are people I've known now for 30, 40, 50 years. I'm 62, so it's been a long time. And then I realized, to take this return on relationship concept a little deeper, that what I really am is a community builder. I like to say that a network gives you reach, but a community gives you power. Networks connect, communities care. And one day someone said to me that everyone knows each other, and you've got people like, remember the old Google circles? That you have people in different circles, and I bring people into communities. But what happened with return on relationship is, I worked for Seth Godin back in 1997, and I know we talked about that once, and Seth coined the term permission marketing while I was sitting across the table from him, and he was writing the original article for Fast Company. And return on relationship really kind of started there, the concept. But when it really took shape, I was at Elf Cosmetics. I was running a brand that had zero marketing budget. They brought me in and said, we have no money. So whatever you do, you're going to have to figure out, which was kind of cool. Like, you know, you take a job with $100 million dollar marketing budget. What do? You buy fucking ads, you hire a lot of people, you do a lot of funky things. I had to figure out how to do these things without a nickel other than maybe a few dollars for an intern. And I jumped into social media early back in this was 2008 and started leveraging it for this business. And every day, they were strictly about their email marketing, hitting people with ads. When are we going to be able to market to your social media, people? And I'm like, I was so protective of this. This is, again, 2008. I started my first social media learning with Oz Sultan and Raja Hollander, who were the first guys that taught me about Twitter and Oz. And I created this the first aggregated content platform that existed probably in the e-commerce world for Elf, called Ask Elf, where anytime anyone mentioned the company, their content was brought into this platform to be shared. And one day the owners called me in, and they were a father-son, and when I joined them, we were about a $5 million business. I left them 2 years later. We were a $50 million business, but somewhere along the way, they said, what's going on with this social stuff? When are we going to be able to sell these guys something? We want to give them coupon codes. We want a discount. We want to give them shit. And I looked at them, and I was so frustrated. And I'd been thinking about this whole relationship thing, and I looked at them, and I said, guys, it's not just about ROI. It's about ROR. Meanwhile, I'm sitting, what the fuck am I talking about? And I'm like, it's about return on relationship. And I had been thinking about the relationships we were building because they were really growing incredibly, but I threw the word return in front of it. And thank God they had another meeting starting in 5 minutes, and they sit there, and these two guys are all about dollars and cents. And they're kind of thinking, and they look up and they go, return on relationship. We want to hear more. And of course, there's panic going on in my head because I really didn't have more to give them at the moment. They said, but we've got a meeting in the next couple of minutes. We've got a couple of things to cover. Can we get back together next week and talk about this? And I walk out of the room, and it's 2009, probably January. And I tweet out, I had 2,000 Twitter followers, I was considered one of the top followed CMOs on Twitter at the time with 2,000 followers. And I tweet out, it's not just about ROR, return on investment. It's about ROR, return on relationship. And I must have gotten 40 retweets. I've got comments. I got people coming back to me. And all of a sudden it became something that I realized, and I do this with a lot of ideas. When I think of something, I tweet it out sometimes in the middle of the night. And when it resonates with people, I extend on it. So I said, oh my God, I've got it. I called up Oz. I told him what was going on. He's like, dude, you got to hashtag it. So I started hashtagging it. What would you normally hashtag return on relationship? Pretty obvious, ROR. So I hashtag ROR, and I used to tweet a lot more than I do now. That was like one of the only platforms at the time. I was tweeting like crazy, and all of a sudden I start getting these nasty tweets from the Ruby on Rails guys. And they said, you're hijacking our hashtag. And I'm like, I'm so new to all this shit. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? We own ROR. And like I do with everything, I didn't answer. I quickly went, and I'm like, owning hashtags. I'm like, you can't own a hashtag. And they're like, yeah, but you're taking it over, and it's pissing us off. And I have two policies that I've lived with since then. One of them is, just be nice and be good to people, and don't piss somebody off unnecessarily. The other one is, don't fuck with guys that can break in your bank account, okay, and who can shut down your website. So I immediately said, okay, I won't use ROR anymore. And I made a classic marketer's error. And this is great because this is something you can totally relate to. I always tell marketers, don't just think what you think. Don't just talk to your team. Talk to your audience. Talk to the people you want to sell to. Think like a customer, not like a marketer. But I thought totally like a marketer. And I said, okay, well, it makes sense. Return on relationship, R on R. I hashtag it R on R. I start using it like crazy. And nobody says anything for a while. But as it starts catching on, people start asking me who Ron is. And I go, what do you mean, who's Ron? They go, why isn't the hashtag TEDR? Why is it Ron?
All right, so I just muted him only because I can, and I just had to. No, I'm gonna unmute you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
But I want to just finish that real quick. I immediately said maybe I should change it. And I reached out to my audience this time, and they all said, you've got traction. People know what it is. It's a great marketing story. Don't change it. And
All
there's
right.
R&R. Return on relationship is be there for people and build relationships. Relationships are like
Amen.
muscle tissue. The more you engage them, the stronger, more valuable they become. Let's go to Zoom.
We're gonna Zoom. Don't feed the libtard. If you can read this, you're in my cove zone. Since you started talking, you know, we were on 1 F-bomb and now we're on 6, and 5 of them are yours. And we also learned what is ROS, which is return on scotch. bit.ly/CoronaTV after the show. Ted, it was really what a pleasure. What an amazing 55 minutes and 35 seconds to spend with you, my friend.
Thank you, Joe. I might even start watching your show now.
You better. I mean, after all of that, you can actually see. Hopefully, none of the guests are like you again. But I'm kidding. Yeah, that was Ted. That was amazing. That was special. Come on over to the Zoom room. But you know, you don't need that banner. What you need is this banner. Let's find it. There we go. bit.ly/CoronaTV after show. Get a drink, come hang out. We'll be there for the next 15-20 minutes. You know, vent, say whatever's on your mind. It's all good. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye.